King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us. It's a regular occurrence each and every year. We always talk about WrestleMania season, and it is now upon us right now as we enter episode 585 of the Wrestling is Real podcast. Thanks for being here, listening to the show as you always do. So many different ways you can catch the show. Let's just run through it, okay? Every big major platform that's out there. Apple, Google, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio. It's all there. And also for some of you Google heads, if you like to have it where you can watch it or listen to it rather on YouTube, it's also there. YouTube.com/JBRASCO951. And if you miss it, go to the show description, because I'm always putting some notes in there so you know things that I'm talking about here on the show. And of course, remember that we are all over the place when it comes to social media, regardless of how people think about it. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. All there for you. And of course, all this information is available for all of you if you go over to wrestlingisreal.com. That's the website, wrestlingisreal.com. Put it all there, just in one little spot for all of you to go ahead and check out and delve into yourself. Pretty easy. You can find the latest episodes, find all the links, and the wrestling headlines. It's all there for you, wrestlingisreal.com. Now, tonight, just finished up Dynamite, which was a fantastic show. A hell of a TNT Championship match to finish off the night with Brian Cage and Darby Allin. That was a hell of a David versus Goliath match that they put together. Really good stuff. Some nice plunder with the return of Sting, right, coming on TV, and so much. They took the waiting room segment from Dr. Britt Baker and put it on the TV now, on regular TV on Dynamite. After, I think it was like a good 10 weeks, they had it over on Dark. And they said, okay, we've given this enough time to go ahead and work its way through. Cody's going to be on it, so let's give us the waiting room, and which was very good. Because that show's already doing pretty good so far. People were watching it. I actually really enjoyed what they were doing on there, on the waiting room. So to see it brought over was actually pretty cool. Everything on that. Again, we're going to see now Thunder Rosa take on Dr. Britt Baker. I love that. Serena Deeb and Ty Conti had a very good match for the NWA Women's title. Good stuff there. It was just good matches throughout the night. The tag team challenge now with the Inner Circle, a nice thing to watch for next week. I like that whole thing. I like the fact that Sami and Jake Hager formed the team Sami Hager. I love that. Come on, these guys are having fun here. You can just tell they're having fun. They're doing good matches. They're having a good old time. There's no pressure. There's no stress in that locker room. There was a time in the Attitude Era, which is exactly what WWE or WWF had. When Stone Cold, The Rock, Mick Foley, when you had all those major stars, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, name them. They were all having a great old time. Remember, they would go out and would go and, entertain the crowd afterwards and do a whole 30-minute thing afterwards. Everybody out there doing stuff, right? Booker T dancing, making Stone Cold dancing and shit, right? They were all having fun. The fun has been sucked out of the Major League. And the fun right now, the momentum is on AEW's side. What needs to happen, it's a matter of time, is that the ratings need to start reflecting that. Now, it's not like it hasn't been reflecting pretty well. Their numbers have been pretty good for Wednesday nights. And again, they continue to have the competition, of which the competition, Finn Balor now, the company's Undisputed Era, some kind of an alliance there. MSK debuts, that's the Rascals. And what are they called? Nash, Carter, and I forget the other name. So no Dez and Wentz, none of that. Or was it Trey? No, Trey Miguel was on his own, right? It's Wentz and Dez. Oh, yeah, Desmond Xavier and Zachary Wentz. Those are the ones that went over to NXT. Okay, you have that debut. And then the Dusty Rhodes Classic with the women's tag teams. Okay, that's fine. But again, it's very independent. It's very, independent division. And it's not anything that's being targeted towards competing against AEW. And I think what's happening now is NXT's the decision now, and I'm sure Triple H is probably thinking to himself, let's get back into our lane. Let's be developmental. Let's do what not even developmental. Let's just be the independent league that we are. And there's going to be some stars that are going to be looked at to be brought up to the main roster. That's what's always going to happen. But again, seeing what NXT becomes a haven for all the stars that, God forbid AEW ever did get a chance to pick up the Rascals, right? The Rascals could have done a lot of work with a lot of different teams there, okay? There was a lot of tag teams in a very heavy tag team division that could have benefited from the Rascals moving over there, right? Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr., Young Bucks, Private Party. I mean, just list the names. There's so many of them, right? TH2. I mean, there's just so many teams. I mean, come on, SCU. There's a lot of teams they could have gone after. But the money was good. And so MSK, which nobody's didn't even know what MSK stands for, they decided to go there. They're now under no names. The weed dynamic, the gimmick that they had before, is completely gone. So they're generic now. What are they going to become going forward? I'll wait and find out what they're going to do. But again, we're going to go all Court Bauer. We'll see, let's see, right? And then what does AEW do? Well, they are going forward with their Impact Wrestling Alliance at the Bullet Club. Kenny Omega bringing out the Good Brothers, accompanying in a match. And, oh my goodness, Good Brothers, Impact Tag Team Champions in an AEW ring. There we go. Where else can we go with that? That's interesting, surprising, different. That's good stuff. And a change up of the lineup every week, because you don't see the same people on TV each and every week. Makes it special, makes it important, makes it different. That's what we're seeing right now. You can't knock what's working right now in AEW. And I'm just going to keep saying that because it is true. We're at that point. The momentum has changed. The pendulum has gone in the direction of AEW now. That's where we are. Just believe it. It's where we're at. So that said, more to work on. Will AEW Dynamite stand out from the pack and be able to make it so that people will go ahead and engage a lot into what's going on? Can they break the 1 million person viewership on their initial showing of the program? Is that going to happen sometime soon? That's really the goal they need to make this year, is to be able to go ahead and consistently get 1 million viewers on the first run on their TV show. And right now, we're seeing that Impact Wrestling is getting the buzz and the rub from doing their stuff. Because right now, they're going into Hard to Kill, which we're going to preview tonight here on the program. It's coming up Saturday night. I will talk about it. I will post-show it on Saturday night right here at WrestlingControl.com. Look forward to that. So you'll have it there. And wherever you find the podcast, you'll be able to listen to it. A hell of a card. Capped off with Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers Bullet Club going up against Motor City Machine Guns and Rich Swann, the Impact World Champion. I mean, it's a good card. It's a very good card when you look at what they've been building up. I think it was much better than what they had with Bound for Glory, because some of what Bound for Glory gave us was a little bit not as good, but this is a very well booked show coming up. And I think Impact Wrestling is looking its best right now, and they're getting the numbers for it. They got 166,000 viewers for the Go Home show to Hard to Kill, which was great. And obviously that's helping with the commercials with Tony Khan and Tony Schiavone, which are great. And Kenny Omega's appearances spread throughout. By the way, Impact Wrestling going to be debuting a new broadcast team. Matt Stryker, whom we have not heard doing announcing. We did hear him, what was it? It's the pre-show for Bound for Glory. He did do that. And D'Lo Brown will now become joining him as a new broadcast team. So Madison Rain will be announcing at Hard to Kill what she'll be doing going forward. Josh Matthews will now go into a behind-the-camera position and will no longer be announcing Impact Wrestling. So, I understand that part. That's actually a pretty good move. I like the fact that Matt Stryker going where he's at now, because I think Matt Stryker really found his own doing Lucha Underground, among other things. So him to go back to the announcing spot, going play-by-play is good. D'Lo Brown, I want to hear what he does. I like him to be better than Al Snow was, which Al Snow I think didn't do much of anything. He wasn't much of a contributor to that. I think it was better in other things, but not for announcing, not so much. So that's where we're at. So AEW, they did drop off a little bit with their audience, again, with January 1st. But again, who wouldn't? That first week of January, I think things will build back up. But again, they continue to consistently beat NXT. And Raw, it did take a drop as a result of the National Championship game, which we know that the champs are now the Alabama Crimson Tide in a pretty big blowout over Ohio State. So there's that to go with. And what was going on with Raw? You know, when you look at what they're doing to build up towards the Royal Rumble, you know, it's not looking that good. It's looking very weary when I look at it. 1.8 million viewers this week, and this is after the Legends Raw, which they basically took away 3 million viewers. Or 300,000 viewers. Yes, 300,000 viewers. Oops. So there's that. The National Championship game might have taken a little bit away. But can they get back to 2 million viewers? Is that something that's going to be possible going forward? Drew McIntyre getting announced that he tested positive for COVID. So he'll be off TV or out of the ring for a couple of weeks. And hopefully that'll be all that it will be. So hopefully he recovers well. Didn't look like he had any symptoms or anything that made him feel like he could be succumbing to any real hospitalization or anything like that, which is great. And then on Raw, they went ahead and brought Triple H out to go ahead and put something into the match, try to put a stipulation in there. And, you know, then they do where I guess the Fiend Bray Wyatt's going to be coming back as well, making a return after he got burned on fire, which makes no sense whatsoever. There's a lot of what's not being explained and what's being understood. There's not much of it at all. Then Ric Flair turns on Charlotte. I mean, how many times are they going to get turned on each other? First of all, it was Charlotte turning on Ric before. Now it's the other way around. Okay. And now Charlotte Flair accompanying Lacey Evans. I don't see the reason behind it, but obviously this is where Lacey Evans gets a chance to be brought into the picture. Will that be something that I guess they're going to lead into going into WrestleMania season? Charlotte Flair, Lacey Evans. Is that a match we're looking forward to? And Bobby Lashley and Matt Riddle are a thing, or Riddle. But we don't know if Riddle has actually signed his contract yet. We don't know about that yet either. And really underperforming this show. Raw underperforming, especially for WrestleMania season. No build. Of course, we saw Goldberg come out for like a half second to go ahead and confront Drew McIntyre. So we're supposed to see those two have at it at Royal Rumble. All right. Adam Pearce wins a gauntlet match to become the opponent for Roman Reigns out of nowhere. That's a horrible idea. And listen, it's nothing against Adam Pearce. Stonehands is good. Like, if you want to put him as a legitimate wrestler, he is. But, of course, they're making him as a goof. Right? He's a geek, as Brian Alvarez would say. That's what they're doing with him. Why do they want to put this match like this together? Is there going to be somebody that comes on board that will then confront Roman Reigns at Royal Rumble, and they'll do that. And then we have the Rumble match, which, what is WWE going to do to create opponents for Roman Reigns or Drew McIntyre? I think it's pretty safe to say that neither Drew McIntyre nor Roman Reigns are going to drop the belts at Royal Rumble. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to stay pretty steady on that prediction unless I don't think there's anything that's going to change that fact. I think it's just a fact of life. And yes, I just quoted Eli Drake. So that said, we're looking at the whole outlook, the scope of what's going on in WWE. It's not good. There might be a couple of matches that look interesting, but really, there's just so much right now that's underwhelming in the entire product. And we're leading up to WrestleMania now coming up. Royal Rumble, we're supposed to be getting a little bit of spike, some spark here. It's not happening yet. Now, we already know we have people that are going to be entering the Royal Rumble match. There is nobody from NXT, I think, that would really make much of a difference to stand out coming up at Royal Rumble. Maybe Karrion Kross. That would be one if there was ever a chance to CM Punk came back, which I doubt. And I don't know who else would be coming back that would make much of a difference. Edge? You know, I mean, would you see Lars Sullivan come back? I don't know. But there's not much there. Now, when it comes to the Royal Rumble, you already have 5 people that are already announced to make the match. Daniel Bryan, Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Otis. None of those names sound important for me to go ahead and say, okay, one of them is going to win this match. It's not going to be any of those 5. Just not. Women's Royal Rumble, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Charlotte Flair, Bianca Belair, Bayley, Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke. Out of those, you could go to Charlotte Flair. I think Bianca Belair would be optimal to win the Royal Rumble match on the women's side, or Shayna Baszler, either or. But I think Bianca Belair is the odds-on favorite, if you had to ask me. They could go Mandy Rose. I don't know. They have something behind her. And again, there's a favoritism going on. It is favoritism booking on the likes of Bruce Pritchard, who I have no doubt he's doing right now. And there's nothing else behind it. There is nothing else behind it. So you have that. Royal Rumble matches. You got the 2 title matches for the men's on the championship and the Universal Championship style on the route there. Those areas. And that's it. Now what else? What else do you do next? What could you possibly do to get some buzz back? There's got to be something. There is nothing that's building up to WrestleMania now. Not even one match. If Bray Wyatt returned, you could have him return to Royal Rumble. But what would that do? What would any wrestler do right now? It's a sad state of affairs. That's such a cliche word, but it's true. What are they going to do to turn this ship around? They have a couple of good stars heading off your champions right now. That you have. And the same thing goes for the women's belts. So you have 4 main champions that are solid. There's not even a question there. What else do you have after that? Again, it's basics. What are we going to do? Who are you going to get in the next... how many days do I have to WrestleMania 37? I got to, let's see. Days until WrestleMania. I'm going to find this out again. Because really, the amount of time they have to get this right and going, 74 days. 74 days. They are, and again, they're moving it forward. This is March 28th of 2021. So with that said, what are we doing next? You're going to want to have a live crowd coming back to this in some way, shape, or form because they're going to go outdoors at Raymond James Stadium as originally planned. So you got that. What's next? What do you do for WrestleMania 37? What do you do to get this show back on board and to get, because really, I think more than anything else, WrestleMania needs to be the time that WWE is on its way back. They need to find their way back to Promised Land. They need to show themselves as they're not in decline. They are back on the rise. They have to show that the rebuild is on. I mean, regardless of what happened with the pandemic, they've been in rebuild mode for a while, and they have no part-timers that will save them this time. Not one. You cannot expect, in this climate, a Ronda Rousey, a Brock Lesnar, a Goldberg, an Undertaker, nobody. There is nobody at this point that's going to build anything up. Again, Triple H coming back to do what was going to be a match of the main event, that did not a blip for the ratings. Not a blip. What else do you have? You can't bring the McMahons out and do something here. There are no gimmicks. There are no hot shot booking that you can do. There's no hot shot booking you could do to build this back up. What you have to do is build stories. And around those stories, you need to build stars. And some of these stars need to start getting some winning streaks and start looking strong for what will be their set opponent. Now, is that going to be Lacey Evans down the line? Is that going to be Big E? I mean, who are you going to put in this picture? Who's going to be on that card? Do we have any ideas of what they're going to do? Any plan at all? I'm looking at what's being said. as of late of the supposed match predictions that may be coming up. Rumored matches I'm looking at right now from digitalspy.com. It was a thought that Roman Reigns would take on Daniel Bryan for the Universal Championship. Well, Daniel Bryan either has to win the damn Royal Rumble or has to be built strong to make his way back up there. But again, Daniel Bryan's already done this. So we're going to go back to this again? And what are we going to do? Are we going to go back to 2014 Royal Rumble in Philadelphia and build something back off the screw job of Roman Reigns winning that night over Daniel Bryan? Are we going to get to that? Like, what's the story you're going to tell there? If the Raw Women's title went to Charlotte Flair and she won it, so what? Oh, so we're going to have Ronda Rousey come back and take her on? And then the SmackDown Women's title, would it be Bayley and Sasha Banks again? Is that where we want to go? And we already know that we're not going to do Drew McIntyre and Goldberg. So again, what are we doing here? What's coming up? We really have no idea what the matches are going to be like, what we're going to be looking at going forward. There's no real plan in place. We see that. And I'm just trying to think to myself, where are we going? Where's the direction? Again, you got Miz with a briefcase. Will that be cashed in any time before WrestleMania? No, I don't think so. Bold prediction. I'll tell you one thing that I like that's been really good as of late, watching Talking Smack. I don't watch the show itself, but I've been watching the clips. Besides some of the matches and Roman Reigns promo cutting alongside Paul Heyman, we're seeing that Paul Heyman and his influence is still very powerful. The work he's been doing confronting the likes of Apollo Crews and Big E are magical. They should be playing those clips on the main show, on the main shows. They should be. Or replaying them or recreating them somewhere, somehow. That's just great stuff. Could Drew McIntyre and Sheamus be a match they build up to? I guess. But Sheamus has been wrestling a whole lot and making a lot of wins in matches. He did not win the gauntlet match. So what are you going to do with him? Now, they've always been building a storyline where there's going to be some kind of a turn where Sheamus most likely will go turning heel once again. I'm guessing, somewhere, somehow. But then what else? I mean, is Sheamus and reheating him up, is that going to be enough? They've been making him strong this whole time. I mean, he did take down Jeff Hardy in a series of matches, even with a bar fight, right? And then after that, what? What has Sheamus been doing to really step up and stand out? Why is Bobby Lashley working with Riddle? I mean, obviously, they're working with each other because they need somebody. They need a dancing partner to do something to be relevant. So for Riddle, if he's supposedly getting some wins over Lashley, well, that's not happening. And Keith Lee being brought into the picture here, you know, with The Miz and AJ Styles, like, okay. But again, it was just not much going on. I mean, Keith Lee and Matt Riddle, no opportunity to build them up. They've been destroyed. The credibility has really been crumbled. Whatever kind of buzz or whatever kind of heat they had coming out of NXT is dead. Like the flame is out on both of them. So I see Big E is definitely getting a push, a deserved push. Could they lead him up to Roman Reigns? I think it will be too soon. I don't think you could do that. You could do that for WrestleMania. I mean, if you have no choice, but I don't think they should go that route. It'd be too soon to get to that story. And I think getting the Big E right now in a singles run, I think he needs more time to build up. He's already IC champ. Let's keep going with him. Let's build him up. Let's keep doing more and build his star up gradually. Get him where Drew McIntyre was. Grab him and bring him up and escalate him. And then you get him to that world title picture. Yes, that's what you do. Universal title picture. We don't know where Seth Rollins is going to be yet. But Seth Rollins could very well return at Royal Rumble or somewhere else. So we don't know what's going to happen with him either. We don't know where Edge is going to be. We don't know, Rey Mysterio has been off TV for a little bit. He could come back as well. We don't know what they're going to do. There's a lot to be said with all of this. But again, it's a lot of mid-carders, or feels like a lot of mid-carders. Now, what WWE does have that you must understand, and I have to continue to tell myself this, is that what they've been able to do in the last couple of years to save some face with this company, as they've had some stars that have had some star power, some significance of star power. And they were able to go ahead and take somebody they put so much work into and then more or less correct the direction of the stars and get them pushed the right way to get them to a title. Okay, Roman Reigns was brought up the right way after he came back from his leukemia scare. Drew McIntyre, once he returns back to the company, spends some time with Dolph Ziggler, and then gets split off, and then finally becomes a singles wrestler with a push with the Brock Lesnar, what happened this time last year. Again, Royal Rumble, they did accomplish making one star bona fide. And that's Drew McIntyre, because he is right now. Because people would go see him in the arenas if they were open. I will keep saying that over and over. Bobby Lashley should be that too. There's no reason why he should be meddling right now here in the Hurt business. Now, hey, they're doing stuff with him, whatever, but it's like, it's still not enough. I mean, there's just has to be something else you do with these guys to help. Bobby Lashley should be standing out above the pack everywhere. I don't know what they're going to do with him. There's no Braun Strowman. We haven't seen him in a while either. He's been off TV. He could very well be back soon. But where would he fit in the picture? They've already tried to push him a couple of times. So there's stars that have not been around for injuries or other things, and they'll be back in time for WrestleMania season. Which ones will be brought into the mix or not, we don't know. But any one of them could be done right by this company and get them on the right path. I mean, those names I just said right there, Bobby Lashley, Braun Strowman, maybe Sheamus. I mean, there's people they've had that have gotten some main event exposure. They have been escalated to that spot into the fringe and then brought back down. So you have some stars that have tasted that kind of level of main event exposure. They have reached that pinnacle. But what do you do after all this time of bringing them down to mid-card, keeping them down, keeping them down, keeping them down? What do you do now with some of these stars to get them out of that and bring them back up to the top? And not making them look like geeks in the long run like they've been doing. How do you do that? Because that is what this company needs to do. They need to figure out what the formula was they used for Drew McIntyre and apply it to other wrestlers this year. That is what they have to go. As for the women, it shouldn't matter who gets buzzed and who gets the work up or anything. They have a number of good, solid stars they could start doing something with right now. Now, look, regardless of what you think, I think Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans could be good. And, I mean, I think about the fact that with Lacey Evans, maybe there's something, what I would hope for Lacey Evans is that being accompanied by Ric Flair and the attachment to Ric Flair will cause a transformation of that character. Sassy Southern Belle goes away. She becomes something else. That's what Lacey Evans needs to be now. The gimmick needs to be dropped now that she's attached to Ric Flair. I think that would be the first thing you do with her. As for, I don't know. I'm looking at Shayna Baszler. I don't know what you do here. But why she's not being used properly, I'll never understand. But they're not. Could you find something that Mandy Rose could do to get herself to a certain spot? I don't know. Could be. There's not much to be said right there. And then on the other side, Sasha Banks. Who do you put as an opponent for her? Well, it would have to be Bianca Belair. And I think you escalate her after the Royal Rumble win. You escalate her into that SmackDown Women's title match and make that match go. And that's a long feud you can go. That's a long program you can have for those two. I think it will be fun to watch. And there's no question that Bianca Belair, not keeping around the Street Profits dynamic there because of a relationship, the real life relationship, and just letting her stand out on her own is going to work. They're going to put a lot behind Bianca Belair, and I think her and Sasha Banks headlining at WrestleMania is a good thing. And they should go that direction now. Otherwise, okay, Daniel Bryan, sure, you could heat him back up, put him back into a prominent role. But again, he's been so pushed back. And again, they took away all the heat that he had when he was doing the real Daniel Bryan. And I don't feel like he's gotten anything that really felt good. I don't like him here as the face. It's not like I don't like his matches, but again, he slowed down. I mean, he needs to slow himself down. Again, I thank God he was able to come back and wrestle again. That's great. But again, Daniel Bryan fits the same role that AJ Styles fits right now. He's the worker on his brand. And that's what he is. So if you need to put him in a solid match, absolutely. But where else are you going to go? I don't think you could go Daniel Bryan once again back to main event. I don't know. I mean, you could make him an opponent. I don't think he would be an opponent for Roman Reigns for WrestleMania. I think he could be an opponent, much like Kevin Owens was an opponent. He's like the flavor of the month. That's the guy that you heat up as a face and you put him up in a match. That's what I think you do. Otherwise, I don't know what else. I'm trying to think who else there is on that SmackDown side that would even be worthy of going up against Roman Reigns. There is nobody. And again, this is where they keep talking about, would they need to go and bring in a part-timer? But which part-timer do you bring in that's a solid face that would come in and be doing the job? I don't know one. We have no clue who that could be. And that's a tough spot to be in. And will they be able to build somebody? Because I think what has to happen as well is that you're going to want to see a face win the men's Royal Rumble match, I would imagine. Because if a face wins, then that person would take on Roman Reigns. So you could build to that match where the Royal Rumble match really stood out for somebody and made somebody very important to get to that match. You could do that, right? But then what else comes after that? I mean, it's just, they have to figure that out. I don't know what you're going to do to get to that point. It's not a good situation to be in. Well, that's all I'm going to say about that for this week. We're going to have so much more time to talk about WrestleMania season going forward. But as I titled this show, they are rumbling, bumbling, and stumbling at the WrestleMania season. This is where all hands are on deck. I don't know what the creative team does here, what Vince McMahon does here, but they need to come up with a miracle. And this is not hard for them to do. They can figure this out. There is, anybody else running this company with the stars, the talent they have, could figure out a better scenario to get things going. That's the whole point. But again, we are reliant upon the bidders of this company and this corporate entity, this corporate structure that, does not have much of a say. The new Khan that took over as the president of the company, I don't see where we've gotten any change yet into what's going to go on with the company and where they're going to be making changes so that the company's product will get better. Like, what are we waiting for? Where is Nick Khan? Where's he doing here trying to say, okay, you know what? We need to make some changes here. The direction of the company. Listen, Vince, you brought me in here. Let's make some changes now. Let's do something with this. So ask yourself, what is Nick Khan going to do to get things in the right direction? That's what I want to find out. President and Chief Revenue Officer, Nick Khan. Listen, you want to keep things going? If you're in this newly positioned role, get WrestleMania off the ground. Get into the enclave of the corporate entity, this cycle. Get into the wrestling bubble and tell those people to get off their duff and start making some changes. We are rebuilding mode. That's where we are right now. This is a sadly needed rebuilding mode for this company. That's what needs to happen right now. And if you're going to keep badgering and screwing up with stars that you have, that you build out of that wonderful multi-million-dollar performance center each and every year. If you're going to keep fumbling those stars, then whoever is handling all these resources and talent, they need to be set aside, which means Vince, Bubby, you got to step aside. If it's going to be a committee of Nick Khan and the rest of the McMahon family pushing out Bruce Pritchard and whoever else is handling the creative or the booking direction of the company, so be it. Let's get there. Let's do something. I implore that this happens. Dare I say, this is like me as a verbal petition to all of you out there to do an outcry to Nick Khan to do something. Meanwhile, thanks to Tony Khan, Impact Wrestling is getting a bigger spotlight coming up this Saturday at Hard to Kill. The pay-per-view looks really stupendous when you look at it. Let's look at the card. And we'll do some predictions while we're doing in between. Kenny Omega, the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, accompanied by the Good Brothers, the Impact World Tag Team Champions, will take on Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Guns. I love this match. Again, doesn't mean really it's just Bullet Club being infiltrated into Impact Wrestling. I like the story of it. And it's a pretty good match. And again, I think where Bullet Club is going to stay strong here, they're going to win this match. Because again, no titles on the line. Impact could take a hit. And that will be something that will happen there. Manik versus Rohit Raju versus Chris Bay. Manik most likely will be disguised as TJP. And I think Rohit Raju... I think Chris Bay actually gets the belt back. That's where they're going to go with things. And really, it's kind of a stripped down X division because they need to get some new stars in there. Now that the Rascals are gone, we need to see who comes in to the X division to kind of help out that. But again, they have a limited amount of talent right now to work in this division. Knockouts title, Deonna Purrazzo, the Virtuoso, against Taya Valkyrie. I think Taya comes back and wins this belt back, which will be good. Strong for her. Then I see Impact Knockouts tag teams titles in a good tournament. Havok and Nevaeh versus Kiera, Hogan, Tasha, Steelz. I think Kiera and Tasha win those belts hands down in a very good match. I like the team. Kiera and Tasha, I really like this team together. I like the backstage stuff with them. It's good. It's a cool team to have, and I can see them being the holders of that first tag team titles right here going on. Bringing those belts back, as a matter of fact. I don't know what they're going to do with Ethan Page and the Karate Man, but I'm guessing that's going to be a cinematic match. And Ethan Page will be bowing out of the company as a result with this, however they're going to do it. I don't know why we don't want to go this direction, but they decided to. But it's a novelty. Barbed Wire Massacre. Jesus, it's going to be something else. Eddie Edwards against Sami Callihan. Probably be gushing with blood and very gory. No doubt bats and barbed wire will be all over this. Probably will spread out outside the ring. Let's see what they do with it. I'm going to say Eddie Edwards takes the win on this. I don't know if he's going to get it or not, but we'll find out. Old school rules. So I'm guessing this is going to be an Extreme Rules match with Tommy Dreamer, Rhino, Cousin Jake against Eric Young. Diener dropped the Cody, which is a very interesting character now being basically reprogrammed by the likes of Eric Young and then Joe Doering along with them in a 6-man tag. That should be interesting. Tenille, Dashwood, and Caleb and Rosemary and Crazy Steve in a mixed tag match. I like all these matches. Now, again, we only have the tag team titles on the line and the X Division title on the line. Yeah. So that's the only matches we have. Tag and the world titles are both being will not be defended. But again, for what it's worth, the fact that it can put this show together with a couple of matches not having titles on the card and having the title holders in the 6-man tag in this large-scale arc of an angle with AEW infiltrating in with the likes of Kenny Omega, that's an interesting feud and makes for an interesting pay-per-view, a very different dynamic to the pay-per-view. I like it all together. So that's coming up this Saturday. Again, we will talk about it, and we will do a post show right here at WrestlingIsReal.com. Look for that this coming Saturday night. That's all I'm going to leave for that right there. There's not much more to be said. We're going to make it short tonight because there's so much more to talk about. Again, we will be doing a post show coming up this weekend. And until more comes along, until we see really what the spark that's going to be of WWE and their direction to try to create the buzz and to really jumpstart with no momentum whatsoever, getting WrestleMania season hype back online, that's going to be the part they're going to have to work on. I don't know what they're going to do to get there, but again, they got a short amount of time to get there, and Royal Rumble's around the corner, and they need to start getting some real buzz for that. And to go ahead and think that this year's Royal Rumble, just because of the spectacle that is the match, is going to make it any better, I can't say that yet. I don't know how it's going to turn out. Again, we're going to have the clock go off, and this will be the first time with no crowd to see a Royal Rumble and have no response to who comes in at all, except for the piped-in crowd noise and the Zoom callers. That's not going to look good, but that's where we are. What a difference. I mean, look, they could surprise us, and I hope they do, but you know, I'm not going to rule anything out. I don't want to be fully cynical and black-pilled here. I don't want to do that either. I'm white-pilled. I want to have hope that this company will find its way back. Because it's got to for the good of the wrestling business. That's just how it is. We will come back this Saturday night with a post-show for Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill. Come back for that. And come back for another Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
Thank you for listening to the Wrestling is Real podcast. Follow the King of Podcasts on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and on Facebook at Wrestling is Real. Subscribe to the Wrestling is Real podcast through all major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio. You can also look for episodes on his YouTube channel, youtube.com/JBRASCO951. You can find all this information and more by going to the website, wrestlingisreal.com.